Trying to record multiple content projects at the same time and struggling to keep all the damn balls in the air, it can require some expert level project management skills to do so, or you can simply watch this video for my top 5 strategies for juggling multiple content projects at once. I've been a professional project manager in the marketing and communication space for almost 20 years. From multi-million-dollar campaigns to itty-bitty micro projects, there are a handful of strategies I come back to again and again, no matter what the scope of the project may be. But before we cover those, I think we need to do a little myth busting. Since the soaring popularity of books and concepts like the 12-week year or the 90-day year, which don't get me wrong, I still love, there's been this glorification of monotasking. And yes, it's undeniable that if you're able to focus on just one thing, you'll get it done faster. But for a lot of people, narrowing their focus to just one project at a time is unrealistic and might not work for their brains. I am one of those people. So if you've ever had to defend the number of projects on your plate, and kudos to you for being intentional with what you take on and what you don't and asking those questions, this video is for you. How can you get almost the same level of progress on your projects while juggling multiple of them? Here are 5 ways you can do just that. Strategy number 1 is to create a project briefing for any project that you're working on. When you are working on and juggling multiple content projects, the biggest time suck is the time that you lose switching between projects, also known as context switching. And it isn't just the opening and closing of tabs and tools, it also takes a beat to get into the mindset of that project and reorient yourself to what's going on. A project brief helps because anytime you're starting to work on that project again, you can spend 3 minutes reading through the brief to quickly get up to speed on the purpose of the project, the latest status updates, your next actions, and easily find all of the links you need to get restarted. My free content project planning template has a project brief front and center on the first page. You can still grab yourself a copy in the description, but it really is a simple tool, the project brief, that I come back to again and again, especially if I'm needing to keep track of a lot of different projects. Speaking of context switching, the second strategy for juggling multiple content projects without losing momentum or wasting time is to make your very next action really easy to find. I like to do this a couple of ways. The first is to make sure that whenever I wrap up work on a project, that I identify my next 1 or 3 actions the next time that I work on it. That way, I don't need to spend any time when I begin working back on that project about what is next. I call this leaving breadcrumbs for yourself, like a Hansel and Gretel find your way back approach. If it's writing, sometimes I'll even write the next line of the piece of content or section so that I have a head start. After all, for most of us, getting started is the hardest part. The second thing I do is try to group like tasks together as much as possible. So even if I'm working on a bunch of different projects at the same time, where can I reap the benefits of batching by grouping together similar types of works and actions that build upon each other? This might look like theme days or categorizing all of your tasks into type for easy sorting and filtering. With that being said, another thing I like to do, which is strategy number 3, is to create more finish line finishes. What I mean by that is try not to stop midway through an action step. To do this, I like to make sure I'm breaking up my project into bite-sized actions that can be tackled in 60 minutes or less, ideally 1 Pomodoro, so 25 minutes. Not only do I get super motivated by check marks, like checking things off makes me the most happy ever, it also lets you use each of the 3 implementation strategies, which are perfect for multi-content project situations like the margins method, the daily content habit, or the project sprint. 3 hacks that I cover in this video up here. So even though you're working on a lot of different things, we're able to set up a situation where you're finishing a lot of things too, instead of feeling like you're endlessly slogging through a to-do list with little in the way to show for it. Speaking of motivation, strategy number 4 is to commit to and celebrate the time spent, not necessarily the outcomes. This might be controversial or it might get me canceled. It might be counterintuitive to everything you've previously heard about productivity and being focused on the outcomes. Yes, outcomes are important. They're the whole reason for any of these projects, right? But if you're working on multiple different projects and they're long-term projects at the same time, it's going to take longer to finish them. Not necessarily more time spent, although a little bit, hopefully negligible with these strategies, but definitely longer time period for getting them done, like 1 week instead of 3 days, depending on what you're working on. So if you're struggling to get started or you're feeling frustrated by the seeming lack of progress, one way to combat that is to focus on time spent. I like to break these projects down into my daily POMOs, aka the number of Pomodoros, 25-minute blocks that I spend exclusively focusing on one task. So instead of creating an unrealistic project plan, it's more about setting a goal for the number of Pomodoros I'll spend on each project, daily or weekly. Here's an example. Let's say that I'm working on a new funnel. It includes a few different projects. It includes the freebie, the follow-up sequence, the sales page for the offer, for this example anyways. I might set a goal to spend 2 Pomodoros per day on each of those projects for a week. By the end of the week, I've spent roughly 5 hours per project and made a whole lot of progress too. The final strategy here for juggling multiple content projects is to find accountability and, more crucially, accountability on your terms. Here's what works for me. In-my-face check-ins might not work for somebody else who prefers a more hands-off approach of I'll get back to you when I get back to you style of accountability. Some things to consider when seeking out your own accountability for progress on your numerous content projects are: what type of check-ins work for me? Am I someone who wants a lot of regularly scheduled check-ins, impromptu pop-ups, or maybe no check-ins at all? Do you need any expertise from your accountability source? Would you benefit from having the know-how of someone who might be more experienced than you in implementing these types of strategies, or is peer support a-okay? Where do you like to stay accountable? A project management tool like Asana or ClickUp or Monday, one-on-one calls, in person? And what extras would make staying accountable even easier and more likely to happen? Like rewards or a visual dashboard showing your progress, co-working, on-demand Voxer support and feedback. In an article by Forbes, it was highlighting that having accountability can increase the likelihood of achieving your goals by up to 95%. I'll pop a link in the description, and hopefully that highlights how much of a difference having accountability can really have. So let me know in the comments, what are all the different content projects you're juggling right now? And if you want to grab my content project planning template, you'll find the link in the description. If this video helped you, hit like and subscribe to know when my next video goes live. And until next time, happy content empire building.